for this. We'll see. Good morning. Welcome to our presentation. My name is Mary Poland. I'm the Assistant Department Head here at the University of Georgia Libraries.
And I'm Viki Timian, and I'm the department head here in Access Services at the University of Georgia.
Oh yeah, I forgot about
that. Yes, thank you for your patience this morning.
Yeah. So we'll go ahead and get started. This is our presentation is GIL Express. Is it new to you? I know the theme of the GUGM this year was new ways of sharing, and GIL Express is not a new way of sharing, but there are plenty of new people who are new to GIL Express, and we hope this presentation will be of use to you guys. So we're going to start off. I'm sure that you know that what is GIL Express? GIL Express is it's a program that is for eligible students, faculty, and staff members at all of our universities in the university system. And they can, it allows them to borrow books from any other institution in the university system. They can do that through their online, through GIL Find, through the catalog, which is considered remote borrowing. And they can also walk up to go into any library in the system and borrow books in person from that library. All they would need is is a picture ID, a government issued picture ID. We would prefer to have their the ID from their institution, but if not, they can use their driver's license. And it would just be like they would be a regular or they could go in, get books, and bring it to the checkout to the desk, and you would check them out like you would your own patrons. Well, maybe not. You have to make sure you're. I think you. Anyway, yes, we will cover that coming up. And our next slide is we're going to talk about GIL Express and ALMA. Right. And I'm going to turn it over to Viki.
Okay, excuse me. So let's jump into some of our processing information. So first things first, in order to process materials in the workflow of GIL Express, you need to have some user roles assigned. And the functions that you have access to in ALMA are based on what these roles are. So if you are part of a multi-library institution, you may need roles in multiple locations, and your roles will vary depending on your responsibilities. But at a minimum, if you're going to process the back end of GIL Express, you need to have at least a request operator role, and that's for you to get to the pick from shelf. And then you need, if you're going to be doing things on the front end with the patrons, then you need some level of CERT desk operator. Like for example, our student assistants have the CERT desk operator limited role, and they can help patrons at the front desk. If you are going to be troubleshooting and maybe running reports, these are going to require additional roles. And those roles are assigned by the ALMA administrator for your department or your library. So I would, if you are trying to do something and you, or you see something in this presentation and you're like, oh, I don't see that function when I look at my ALMA, check with your ALMA administrator, and maybe it's just a role that you need to get assigned. Tell them what you're trying to do, and maybe they'll assign that role to you. So when we are processing books that are going out for delivery, so when your pick from shelf books are retrieved, we're going to use the scan in function, because what that does is it moves the item from one workflow step to another, and it automatically generates a transit slip. So once you have scanned those items in, your slips get generated. You're going to put those slips in the books that are getting sent to other libraries. GIL Express books are sent to other libraries through Stat Courier primarily, or if you're in a USG institution that's also a member of ARCH, you have an alternate where you can use the ARCH van for deliveries to other members of other ARCH member institutions. We want to make sure that we band the books. One thing I will mention, and I think we might talk about it again later in the presentation, but when you're banding your books, we always, at the desk, there's always like a hunt for the barcode kind of a game that we get to play. So the book bands don't always have to be on the front cover. If you know that you barcode the inside front cover or even the outside of the front cover, you can put those bands on the back just to make it easier for people to find those barcodes. Those books are then those banded books are then placed in a secure bag for delivery. Each of the bags should have a barcode for Stat Courier. If you don't have, or if you have bags that need barcodes, you can let us know and we can send you some. But they are supposed to scan those whenever they pick them up. Each of those bags then has a clear label holder, and you are going to stick a PDF slip in there for the bags that are, and those are all located on the GIL Express website. Any books that you were looking for and you could not find, you want to mark those missing in ALMA so that the request will get canceled and the patron can try another avenue of getting that item that they want. All right. So on the receiving end of GIL Express, once you've received your courier bags and you've unpacked them and scanned them in, so within the ALMA configuration, you can set up whether or not you want an interim step of a hold shelf processing. This is done in the circulation desk area of fulfillment within configuration. And so with that configuration, the item doesn't automatically, or the hold for the item doesn't automatically activate for the patron. So it allows you to do whatever you need to do ahead of time before it goes on hold. So if you use this function, though, you're going to have to scan the item in another time once you're ready. So what that will do is that it will move it out of that hold processing and actually activate the hold for the patron. And at that point, the patron will get notified that the item is available for pickup. Now, if you don't have a hold processing shelf, then as soon as you scan the item in, the hold is activated and the patron is notified. You can set up a delay in notification for your items in that same area of configuration. I know that we have found that useful if we are processing lots of bags and we have stacks and stacks of items that are waiting to get put into the our hold shelf, that we have it set for like a 30-minute delay so that yes, it does show up automatically on the patron's account, and if they're diligently checking in Primo, they'll see that their book has come in, but at least they won't get the email notification until 30 minutes, and maybe that's given us enough time to get it on the shelf for them. Also, just to note that it is the home, it's the item's home library, or the owning library as we call it, and not your library that generates the notice. So it will use the owning library's configurations. which is if you use GIL Express, prior to ALMA, it's a little bit different. So, just want to make sure that everybody is aware of that. So it is possible when you're scanning the items in that the book will be routed to another location. Now, if you're a multi-library institution, this is probably the main reason that it's maybe going to another library within your institution. However, the patron could also have canceled the request while it's en route, or it could be maybe that it's your library book that's gotten returned and it didn't get processed correctly out of the expired hold shelf. Those holds expire after 10 days before it moves to the expired hold shelf for further processing. And we'll cover that expired holds a little bit later in the presentation. So for renewals, ALMA uses a maximum number of days that an item can be checked out for its renewal limit, which is a little different from when we say that you get your initial checkout and then you have 2 automatic renewals. Because ALMA, we have it set up so that ALMA will automatically renew the item the day before the due date. What happens then is that it can result in a very short third renewal date. So just keep that in mind. Sometimes that's with troubleshooting. People are like, I thought I renewed this, and it did in fact, they get renewed, but maybe it only renewed for a couple days. All right, so now I'm going to turn it back over to Mary.
Okay, and now we're going to talk about managing your hold shelves. So in ALMA, you have an active hold shelf and you have your expired hold shelf. So once it's possible that you might have a person who does not want the book, or sometimes we have patrons who order multiple copies of a title to make sure they get one. Anyway, whatever reason, you've got a person, they don't want it and they want to cancel the hold and it's on the hold shelf. So there is no cancel option for a GIL Express item on the active hold shelf. So your only option is the update expiry. You can change that, and the way you do it is you would change that expiration date to a past date, or maybe today's date. but you would change it to a past date from what is actually on there, and that action, by doing that, that's going to send that record to the hold shelf. And then once it is on the on that expired hold shelf, it can be you can send it back to where it belongs. Also, another way to get that it would get to the expired hold shelf is that the person just never picks the item up and the hold expires and that record moves on to the expired hold shelf. The expired hold shelf seems to be one of the it can be overlooked easily. It is not. That's one area that when something happens to a record, many times it's gonna. If you need to check the expired hold shelf, because that's where it could end up. When you do check the expired hold shelf for GIL Express items, it's going to send that record to your Send to Institution tab, and that's where you would go. There are other tabs. There's like the reshelve for your own items, Send to Circulation Desk. If you have other, for example, you might have I don't know, you might have a media desk, or you might have a anyway, you might have other desks in your library, and that would be what the send to circulation desk tab would be. Send to libraries, if you have another library within your institution where you have multiple, like we have curriculum materials library, a science library. So that's the send, that's where that tab, that's where records would go. And the activate next is if there is another person waiting, they put a request on that item, it's going to, that record will go to that tab and it'll be under there so that you can, that they would get that hold would go to that person's record and they would be notified that it was ready. Okay, we can. So to process, this is just an example. You would go to send to the institution and there's a transit link that if you, depending on how many items are in here, you can do the individual. If there's just one, you can do it individually, or you can do the select all and click transit, and that will move the record forward in the workflow and put it in transit and print your transits, and your transit slip will print for that. But I would, I would recommend you definitely need to check your expired holds. We check them daily, but definitely, I would definitely check them often, at least once a day, just to be sure.
Yeah, and I'll just, you can also, if you don't want to use that transit, button or link, if you like to scan in your, actually scan the barcode, you can in scan in items in that function, you can scan those materials in, and it will put them in transit. I would just, like Mary said, I would just double check and make sure that your expired queue gets cleared out.
Yeah. Yep. Okay. What's our next one? Oh, what is a stub record? Oh, we have a question. Kara, the active hold shelf, wait a minute, hold on, come back. The active hold shelf should not have expired titles. We have titles with older held until dates. It shouldn't have, no, your active hold shelf should not have expired titles. Yeah.
That's something, I'll make a note of that. I've never seen that before.
Yeah. Do you mean, I wonder, you mean like there are hold dates that are more than, okay, well, good, great. Got Kurt, they got plenty of examples. We'll take a look, see what's going on. Anyway, stub record. This is a record with the information of a patron that comes from their home library. It's got their name, usually their institution ID, and other information. It's also, this is created when the patron places a GIL Express request and has an active request on their account. And we can also find this information when we search for a GIL Express patron record, when we do it when they walk up. We can't see anything like their charges, their books, the books that are charged, or their fines, or any notes that come from the patrons, from the home library. It's just your basic information that you can use to check books out to them. And also you can, in ALMA, you can search for the patron for a person not in your library, that find user in another institution. And if you do that, you might get a screen that looks like this quick user management, or you might get a screen that doesn't have any kind of information in it. If that happens, you should try, you can try using the patron's ID number if you have it, or you can just not check that box with at the find user in another institution and try searching them as one in your own. And Kara's asking when are stub records updated? At the same time, no, stub records are not up. You have to go out, you have to go and find that patrons, or you have to go and actively going through ALMA to find that information. That's not an automatic update on the patron load.
Right. I think
Right.
the only time it's automatically done is if there's any kind of activity on the patron's account. So like if they go in and they're checking their, like if they make a request or anything where the two entities have to interact, I think that's the only time it gets updated.
Okay, Kara said she had to contact home institution to fill in the email address when it was blank.
Yes.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, to make sure notices were being sent. Yes. Yeah. Sometimes you would. Yes, it is possible that you would have to contact the home institution to get some information, that it wouldn't pull that over. That's correct. Yeah. Yes. And I think you should know, you should always be, that is always welcome to contact the home institution or for institution, for us to contact each other about questions with GIL Express. Yes, it's it's expected that sometimes that's going to have to happen. And that brings us to letters and notices. Take it over, Viki.
So here's just a short list of some letters or notices, emails, whatever you want to call them, that patrons may receive when borrowing GIL Express materials. And I mentioned it before, but remember that it's the item's home library or the owning library, not your library, that generates the notice for that item. So it's going to use that library's configurations. So if you have, like if some people have modified their letters, and if you've done that, you'll probably want to double check and make sure that it's either going to everybody, right? It's appropriate for everybody, or if it really is for your information for just your library and your patrons, there is a way for you to do like if then kind of statements within the letters. But that kind of gets us to this next slide. So I think that configuring and modifying letters in ALMA, it's getting easier over the years, but it can definitely require some additional skill or training. So, and it would take up a lot of time, I think. If you go to these sites, you'll see there are like multiple presentations that people have done on how to modify your letters. So here are some resources we just want to make sure that you have, and we encourage you to try and see what you can do on your own. All the institutions, you have access to the sandbox environment that you can work in if you just want to kind of see how comfortable you feel. And then if not, I would say if you've looked and it's just something you can't really do on your own, then you can always reach out to the GIL support help desk and just explain what you want to happen, and they'll see how they can make it happen for you. All right, so we're gonna talk about documents, that other documents that we have available. Yep. So you'll hear, or where did I just go? Sorry.
Yep, that's it.
You'll hear or you'll see this page referred to a lot. And you get there from the main GIL Express page on gil.usg.edu. You can, it's a little difficult to see, but you go to support, then there's downloads and documents. And from there, you get to this GIL Express folder. Once you click on that, it will take you to this window or this page where you have to authenticate. So you will need it's a statewide username and password, system-wide. So, and since this is being recorded, we probably don't want to say what those are, but you can submit a help desk ticket. If you, on that same page, the support page, if you don't know what they are, you can go up to contact and contact the help desk and just tell them that you need the username and password for GIL Express, and they should send that out to you. All right, so once you are in, some of the things that you can find there are like our most current contact lists. You'll have information for stat courier, like labels, log sheets, address codes, institutional billing instructions and presentations. There's GIL Express blocking instructions, and coming soon, there will be some damage slip, the actual slips and information to show how we're going to handle those materials. So I'm going to let Mary take over reporting.
GIL Express reports. Yay. Okay. So you find these in your ALMA instance in analytics. And if you go to design and you do need the to get to design analytics, you would need a role that would allow you to get to design to access the design analytics page or section in ALMA. And once you get there, you would go to dashboards. And on the dashboard, you will find, if you go down to Galileo Network, you'll see the GIL Express reports and statistics. And that's, you would click on that. And those are all of your GIL Express reports. The charged items, you can see in transit, things that are coming back to your institution. And then you have your different statistics. The charge statistics are different from request statistics. Those because, as we know, just because somebody requests a book and we get it for them, that doesn't mean they're going to come in and get it and pick it up. So we keep track of both of those things, as well as renewals. Sometimes, we do sometimes count our renewals as a charge in our stats. And then I think the first item there, that GIL Express items charged, that is actually that's a list with things with, it gives you the bibliographic, like gives you the book information and the patron information. But whereas the other are, the charge statistics are just the numbers. So that's that's, I think GIL Support created these. I think Sean Boyle created it. Anyway, it was very grateful to get these reports, because you can do them yourself if you know how. I mean, but it's much easier to have them all in one place here. Yes. And then, as we'll talk about in a minute, there is when a GIL Express book is lost or moves to lost status, and then there is an automatic $35 processing fee that is added to the patron account, as well as a default replacement cost that's added to that account. So when the books are returned, those fees do not necessarily automatically come off, and they'll need to be cleared out. And this is a lot. This report is a report that will help you do that. You can run this report, and then you can see where those, what records need to be cleared of those fines. And as you can see down here, the file path, it is, it's in the shared folders. And again, you need to have the role that will allow you to have access to analytics to get into this report. You'll need to be in the shared folders of the community, anyway, to our USG institutions, and then you can click over and get to that report. But it is very useful. Otherwise, you're just going to have, you'll just have to wait until somebody's asked, calls and says, I've got this fine on my account, but I returned the book, or another institution will call and ask you to do that. But so yes, very useful report. And then we, as many of you know, we have a GIL Express blocking report that is emailed daily to people, to individuals who are responsible for taking care of that at their libraries. This is so with GIL Express book, right? You have your initial due date, and then you get 2 automatic renewals, and then after you pass that final due date, we give you a 7-day grace period to bring the book back. But if you do not, then you're added. The name is added to this GIL Express blocking report, and it's added by the system. It's an automatic. It automatically adds the people who have these books overdue, and you are the email is sent out daily, and we take that email and we go, depending on how many, we block the people in an automatic block is placed on them. It's it's a GIL Express block, but we also here at UGA, we add the demerit block to make sure they cannot check things out. And we also block them in Banner in the university system, so that they can't register for classes. And then we also, and that's report the people, we also show whose blocks have been removed, and so we have to go in, and then we also have to remove all those blocks. The system will automatically remove the GIL Express block, but then then we go in and remove our demerit block and the Banner block for these patrons. Sometimes you may notice that you miss that the blocking report doesn't come in an email, and that is usually because of something that has it used to be like something was wrong with the person's email. There was but sometimes now it's a glitch, and GIL support will take a look and fix it for us. I think just recently there were a few days where something like that had happened, and we had to get it fixed. But if you notice that and it doesn't happen quickly, let us know. Okay, we're going on to the processing fee. So once a book is considered lost, and that is after 28 days after the final due date, then that replacement cost and the processing fee are automatically added to the patron's account. And the processing fee is $35 per book. This was set up at the very beginning of GIL Express, and it's a statewide policy. And at the time it was based on they came up with this as an average cost to the library, what it would cost to process that replacement copy of a book. And the processing fee is non-refundable. I think now, as we have, over the years, it has become it's not mandatory. It's up to the individual library to decide if they're going to charge that processing fee. But if you don't charge it, you are going to have to manually remove it from the patron account. We are currently, the GIL Fulfillment Committee, we are currently looking at a proposal to eliminate the fee. However, that the decision to do that, to eliminate the fee, is not up to the committee. It would have to go to RACL, which is the leadership committee for the university system libraries. But we are looking in, we have had a proposal to eliminate the fee.
So I just wanted to just clarify the language a little bit, that it is statewide policy that the fee is charged. Now it's a local decision whether people will collect it or not.
Okay, yeah.
So it is automatically put on there by policy.
Yeah.
So whether or not you make your patron pay for it, I guess that's your local decision.
Yeah. And that's also, I think, that goes on your local books too. Like I think that's a fee across the board. In ALMA, that it would automatically place that $35. Is that correct?
I think that's local.
I think, yeah. Okay. So anyway, that's the processing fee. And now we get to damaged items. So, and you will eventually have to work with damaged items coming that either, from GIL Express. It is possible that you will get a book that is all came from the library, from the owning library, damaged, and maybe there might not be a slip in it that says that they've already notified, that they know it. That is a situation where I would contact that owning library and ask them, if they knew what condition the book was in when they sent it. Because just to be sure that it's possible, just to be sure it didn't get damaged in transit. And if that is a whole other situation, that if it was damaged in transit, Stat Courier has said they will pay up to $100 for materials. And there is a claim form that you can fill out. If the damage is, and if it is damaged but it is still able to be, still readable, still could be used, then you should put a note in that book. And, if you consult with the home library and they say, sure, okay, go ahead, and you can check it out to the patron. But we don't want the person who has borrowed it to be charged for the damage if they did not do it. Now, if it occurs while, if the patron did, if the damage occurred while it's on loan, then you would need to decide, you would need to come back to the home library so they could determine how much to charge that person for the damage. It's definitely also possible that book, it should not be checked back in, but it's certainly possible that it is going to be discharged off the patron account. And in that case, then, we need to, you would need to talk to the owning library to see how they want to, to see what they want to do. We're also, as I think we mentioned earlier, the fulfillment committee is reviewing our policies on this, and we will, there'll be some guidelines also with the damaged item slips will be placed on that GIL Express, in that document section on the GIL Express website for everybody to use. And now we move to Stat Courier.
All right, so stick with us here. We have just a few more slides to go. So Stat Courier, so they are the company that is contracted and used by both the University System of Georgia for GIL Express, but also pines. So sometimes you'll see some pines crossover. You'll see some blue pines bags or maybe some green pines bags that come around. But anyway, so we're using, when we're using GIL Express, sending GIL Express items, we want to make sure that we're using the Stat Courier GIL Express bags. And each, I think that there's a list going right now, Mary has asked. Occasionally each semester, libraries are going to give their close dates. And what we do is we provide those close dates to Stat Courier so they know not to service a particular location. And we do those close dates because USG is billed by the stop and not by like the bag or some other method of measurement. So if there is if there's a gap in service, or if there are any misstops or any kind of service issue with Stat Courier, just please report that to the help desk, and we'll get that sorted. Sometimes you'll need bins, some that sort of thing. That's other things that you can submit to the help desk. But any kind of problem that you're having, please report it, because we meet with them periodically to talk about their service to the system. Oh,
yep,
here we are.
Here we are. I know. Yeah. So I'm sure most of you know that you check GIL Express information on your network activity tab. That's where you go on your patrons account. You go under that network activity tab, and that's where you can see the loans and the requests for GIL Express. Also,
yes, and even though every other tab will have a little dog ear,
oh, that's right,
thing to let you know that there's something in there, it does not do that for the network activity tab. So just diligently check it. If they say that they have a book on hold, yes, you always got to check that tab too.
Yeah. Also, please put book bans on your books before you send them out to other libraries. And if you don't have book bans, we have, I think you would ask me or Vic, ask us here at UGA, we have book bans.
Yep, or just put it out on the list, if you can't remember us.
Yep. But, and like Vicki said earlier, if you don't have to put them on the front of the book, if your barcode is, if that's where your barcode is, you can put it on the back cover. Please scan in all your books, whether they're, whether you're coming or going, scan them in, especially before they're sent back. Because if you don't do that, it can get caught in a loop of running back and forth between the libraries. Because so they hit the expired hold shelf and somebody takes them off the expired hold shelf and just puts them in a bag and sends them back. When they get back to the home library, and somebody scans them in there, it's going to tell them to send it back to wherever it came from. So yes, it can get interesting in those cases. Also, we have those little zip ties that we put on the stat bags. Please leave a little room, especially if you're using the thicker zip ties, to leave a little room on those zip ties so people can cut them away. Also, just reiterating, remember, if you don't get a delivery, if Stat Courier does not stop at your location, please report that. And if you have multiple locations at your institution, please make, and I'm sure you probably know this by now. I found it out the hard way. Anyway, just make sure you're at the correct location in ALMA when you're doing stuff, because sometimes that can have an effect. And and just make sure that you actually have a location selected, because if you don't have any location selected, then it won't do anything. And these are the resources to you need to be on these lists. Definitely the G2 fulfillment. I don't know about the Georgia, that G2 all. I don't know if that's so used. I don't know that we use that much anymore.
We'll probably have to, these are up here. I know we're running out of time.
Okay, yeah,
Let me
yeah.
see if there's anything. Oh, okay.
Yeah, that was, yeah. And then there's the websites here, particularly that the usg.edu, the GIL Express. That's where there's information about GIL Express, plus that's where the documents live. And then there's the Ex Libris, ALMA, and the GIL Express wiki, or the ALMA wiki, training wiki, is that bottom one there on the websites. And I see there was a question in chat.
Yeah, could you clarify the GIL expired?
So if a book, so a person requests a book and they don't pick it up, so you get it from the owning library, and it's you scan it in, it goes to the hold shelf, it sits on the hold shelf for 10 days, and it then automatically, that record is moved to the expired hold shelf in ALMA. The book is still sitting on your shelf, on your hold shelf, but the record has moved to the expired hold shelf tab in ALMA. And that needs to be, and it will sit there, that if you don't check it, or say if but that, to move it, to get it to go back to send it back to the home library, then you would go into the expired hold shelf and put that book back and click transit and put the book back in transit to the home library. Now, if somebody came in, I guess if you waited, like we do this daily, but say you waited a few days and the person actually came in and wanted the book, you could check that out, that you could check that book out to them from the expired, it would check it out to the person who had requested it.
So I just wanted to reiterate something that Rosemary said in the chat, and that was that not to mix your GIL Express and your ILL books in the same bag. So they do have separate labels. There's a white label for GIL Express and blue for ILL, and it just keeps the streams separate, because I know sometimes, we have USG materials that go through interlibrary loan to other USG schools, and if they get scanned in ALMA, that it creates some problems for the ILL transaction and how to get that back in order. So thank you for that reminder, Rosemary. I think are we at time?
Almost.
Close.
There was one other question. I don't know if you all answered it, from Janice. Can you give instructions for adding a demerit block?
Yeah. So I can. It might be easier if I send Janice the instructions.
Okay.
And Mary and I are happy to do that. It's pretty easy from the blocking tab.
Yeah.
And the patron record.
And and you all have Janice's email address.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Where are you going? No. All right, cool. Well, if there are no other questions, I want to thank Mary and Viki for being the consummate duo again. They were a duo last year as well for them. So I think they must, enjoy working together.
Gee, yes, I think you're absolutely right.
But thank you guys so much for bringing this presentation to us, and really appreciate the attendees for joining us. The slides are available right now on the SCED site, and the video recording will be available pretty soon.
Well, and thank you, Joy, and thank you everybody for coming to listen to us.
All right, bye.
Bye.